You're welcome to the Aquaculture Center of MUZARDI, NARO. My name is Catherine Nazziwa, and I'm the Aquaculture Economist of MUZARDI. And I majorly deal with helping farmers to get on to rearing their fish comfortably without making losses. But also, we do research on the fish as well as reproducing young fish, the ones we call tilapia fry, for farmers. I make sure that they maximize where they are going to benefit more, like on feeds, and then reduce money on where they are not going to get output from. Anybody can very well do urban farming in fish farming in an urban center, but there are things that one must have in order to do fish farming, even in an urban center. One of the major inputs is water. Once you don't have reliable water, you cannot do fish farming, whether you're in an urban setting or in a very big plot of land. So water is crucial, even in an urban setting. And like you see in our tanks here, you have to be able to exchange water on a daily. Water has to be circulating every day. So if you don't have good quality water that is reliable, you cannot do urban farming in terms of fish farming in an urban setting. So I will give you examples of reliable water sources that we can use in an urban center. Rainwater can be used if you have a very rich rain harvesting point, but it's not reliable because not all of the time it's raining. We have swamps. If you're in an urban center but you're lucky you're near a swamp, you can find a way of pumping that water from the swamp to your rearing unit. Like this water is swamp water. The other example that we discourage using is tap water. We discourage using tap water because it's expensive, and also that water is treated with chlorine. Chlorine has an effect on the fish, so you have to let water stay out for quite some time, about 2 days, before you use it in fish. But I would not comfortably advise someone to use national water because it's very expensive. We need money because everything we do these days is for money, and portable units that we can use in an urban setting. The plumbing materials like the pipes, because you need to actually make that unit be fit for rearing fish. And one of the qualities is that water must go in through a plumbing system. You need a portable pump. I would say you need to decide either you're going to recirculate the water, like using it back and forth. You use it in the fish, filtrate it through a filtration system, and then back into the fish. Then if you're going to use that system, you will need a filtration unit. Yeah, and then you will need feed for the fish because fish eat every day. And you will need the seed. You have to buy the young fish. You need to have an idea of what it is and what you need to do in order to keep fish. So on an urban setting, remember, the key element is water. Reliable water that is good quality from a natural source. Once you have water, you can do fish absolutely from anywhere. Even if it's a small area of 5 by 10 meters, you can absolutely do fish farming there. But the reason behind you doing it varies. If you're going to do commercial fish farming, I wouldn't advise someone to do it in a very small space. But on the other hand, if you're going to do, like for example, in this plot we have, it is a 50 by 50 plot. And you see we have about 4 rearing units. This is a 50 by 50. Yes, we have about 4 rearing units. And the secret is, once you see you have a small space, I would advise someone to go into the breeding side of fish. Because with 1 tank or 2 tanks, you can have about 300, 400 breeders. And those breeders, imagine each of the females can give you over 200 young ones. and you're going to sell each baby at about 100 shillings. And those baby fish that fry don't take long to grow. In 2 months you're selling. So you can break even earlier when you're doing breeding fish. But if you want to grow them to a table size, then I would advise someone to strictly go for large scale production if you want to break even early. Or the other alternative is the recirculating systems, like the aquaponics. Aquaponics is where we have rearing tanks, and then we have a bit of vegetables grown in the filtration unit. There, you can maximize your potential by growing the fish, selling the fish, but putting more effort in the vegetables, because for them they have a shorter growth time of about 3 months. So you can be selling your vegetables in 2 to 3 months, as well as still growing your fish, but you're still making money from the vegetables. So we shall use an example of a dam liner tank. I will kind of try to give you a picture of a startup that you can use. We can use an example of a dam liner tank, like that black polythene. I think they will show it later. So you can fabricate a wooden tank. It can be a 6 by 10 meters, not so big, and you can fabricate it well, align it with the dam liner. Okay, so I was saying that if you really want to do grow out fish in an urban setting, you can either use the concrete tanks, but I wouldn't advise someone to go for these when they are dam liner tanks like these ones. And for the dam liner tanks, you can just dig a depression or fabricate wooden. You can fabricate a wooden from timber. You can fabricate a wooden box-like kind of structure and align it with this cavera that you can put on your inlet and outlet. And you can stock your fish in like a square meter, like 1 square meter. You can put up to 5 pieces of those African catfish. And those ones, you can raise them for about 9 months. And you can get a kilo, 2 fish to give you a kilo. And that kilo combined, you can sell it like 10,000 shillings. Yeah, in a space of about 10 months. So if we have our unit is maybe 6 by 10. That is our 60 square meters. So you multiply the 60 by the 5 to get about 30 to 50 pieces. So when you're growing grow out, that's what I was explaining to you. When you're growing grow out in an urban setting, you will grow fewer when you want to grow them to grow bigger. Yes. But when you go reverse, maybe you're breeding baby fish or you're doing it, let's say in a pond. I'll give an example. A startup pond can be about 500 square meters. In a space of 50 by 50, you can have about 3 of those tanks, of those ponds. And in each of those ponds, you can put about 2,000 pieces. Actually, this is not a pond, this is a tank. This is 8-meter diameter by 1 meter down. When you put on the water level, it is 1.2 meters. Here, we breed from here. The stocking varies. When we are breeding in, we try to put smaller, few fish at a time. So in here, we have about 150 females and 50 males, making a total of 200 pieces. If you want to use it for growing, still you would put it a maximum of about 300 pieces only. A tank like this one, we can use about 100 square meters of the cavera, and that one a meter costs about 22,000. So that's about 2.4 million of the dam liner. Then excavation, like what they are doing there, excavators can charge about between 7,000 to 10,000 per square meter. So if you go into all that, you can find they're excavating for about between 700 to 1 million. Then the plumbing work doesn't cost much. It can cost you about 200 to 300,000. Then that's all. These are bricks and all. This is not even a whole trip of sand. You can see we bought sand and it's said. So that's all. The water is not bought. About 300 pieces on a go, at a go. But if we are going to do the African catfish, for tilapia it's less. For African catfish, we can squeeze and put more because for them they are more hardy fish. For African catfish, we can shoot and go to like 500, between 400 and 500 pieces. And we can raise those for about 9 to 10 months. depending on how we are feeding, the quality of food we are giving, and the quality of the water that we are putting in. This one is a bit more costly because we use about 5 to 6 million. And the major cost here is the cement. But this one is more durable than the other one. It goes back to the very first thing about fish is good water. We call it good quality water. So good quality water has to be reliable and it has to be available almost every day into your fish. Why? Because these fish, when they excrete into the water, it becomes bad. It builds up toxic substances like ammonia that affects their respiration. So we make sure that we are washing out those toxic substances by putting fresh water. Now, that is called water quality management. On a daily, you have to make sure you're putting some fresh water. It does not necessarily mean you're going to reduce water and put fresh water, no. You just let the water that is dirty stay there. When you put the fresh water, the dirty water automatically gets displaced if you've put an outlet. Then secondly, we do feeding on a daily. When we are feeding the fish, we make sure that we feed them food that is of good quality. And good quality feed is in pellet form. That pellet has between 20, like the crude protein has to be 20 to 40, sometimes even 50, but 20 to 40 is relatively enough. When the fish are smaller, they feed on a high protein content feed. As they grow bigger, you can reduce on the protein content. We feed every day. Big fish, we can feed them 3 times a day. Small fish, we can feed them about 5 to 6 times a day. Besides feeding, we do predator control. When we as examples of predators, we have birds like eaglets, like eagles. We have crawling predators like snakes and maybe monitor lizards, but mostly they are snakes. And also we have human beings in predators. So when we are doing predator management for the birds, you make sure that at least at all times someone is always around. The birds will get used that place has people, so they will never come around. Then for the crawling predators like the snakes and monitor lizards and all, you just plant the compound paspalum because for it doesn't grow taller, it stays short, so those reptiles don't like crawling in this short grass. Then for human beings, you have to make sure that you have security. Can I say security? And security does not need bringing a security company, no. Security can be bridged through social interactions, like making sure you have a good relationship with your neighbors, and also just making sure like someone is there so that someone doesn't come and harvest these fish. Yes. So basically that is the kind of management: water quality, feeding, predator control, and record keeping. So the biggest challenge in fish farming is the cost of feed. Feed contributes about 70% of all the total costs. Because the fish have to eat every day. Imagine a kilo of fish costs right now, averagely it's about 4,900 to 5,000. And when fish are mature like this, like for example these ones, they can eat about 2 kilograms of feed. Yeah, every day. And this is not ad-lib feeding. But when you are in a setting of producing your fish for a short time, you have to feed them about 10% of their body weight every day. And that cost of feed is expensive. So in the end, vis-a-vis the output, it is actually very okay, but the money, the input is a lot. Then secondly, fish farming generally, compared to other enterprises, it is a very expensive enterprise. Investment-wise, putting up the pond structure of a fish vis-a-vis putting up a pond structure of a poultry, you can see it's expensive as an investment. And the return on investment comes after some time. It can even take 2 years for you to break even and start making money. When you compare it to other enterprises like poultry that make money even in 4 months, yes. So those are basically some of the big challenges. But all in all, the challenges vis-a-vis the benefits are generally more if someone has the money. As a technical person, if I'm talking of challenges, I wouldn't bring in labor. because it's not a challenge. You can, if when you're at home in an home setting, you can just teach even your kids to take care of the fish. Even you yourself, you can take care of the fish if you have the time. If you bring in someone, you can give them about 150,000 or 100,000 to take, just to feed the fish if they are in a smaller setting. Diseases in fish are funny. They are there, but they are not something to emphasize on. But there is a biggest challenge that is disease-like that we worry about more, and that is stress. Stress, like human stress. So when these fish are stressed, stress can be physical, it can be environmental. Like when the water quality is bad, they will be stressed. The stress can be built into the system. They will not eat, they will not breathe, and in the end you just see dead fish popping up because they are lacking the oxygen and they are in turn stressed. So diseases like malaria, no, we don't have. But we have bacterial rots, we have fungal infections, but all those built up when the water quality is bad. They don't just come that today we have swine fever in fish. No, we don't. Yes.